Good evening. Hi, my name is Bucket. Not really. And welcome to Bucket of Books. So today I'm going to be getting rid of some of the books that I just don't really find joy in anymore. I was kind of using that Marie Kondo concept of if it doesn't spark joy, then it's out. I was having kind of a rough week. I was feeling less generous with keeping some of these books. And I'm getting rid of some of my clothes as well. So I thought, why not look at my bookshelves and see if there aren't any books that I just don't want anymore. I love you. Mwah. My cat's here. So that's what this video is going to be about. We're going to be going through these books. So if you are South African and you maybe want one of these books that I am selling, I will be leaving the Yaga link down below for you to check out. So please do if you want one of these books. So why do I keep saying so? First off, we have Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. I have read this book before. I enjoyed it. I mostly read this book because of the movie that came out. And after that, I did read Leah on the Offbeat, the kind of spin-off novel focused on one of the side characters in this book. But that one was a catastrophe. It did not go really well. I enjoyed this book, but I can't remember much about it. If I want to relive the story, I'll just watch the movie. I don't really see any point where I'm going to be rereading this, so I'd rather just get rid of it. So I will be reading the synopsis for anyone who's interested. Straight people should have to come out too. The more awkward it is, the better. Simon Spear is 16 and trying to work out who he is and what he's looking for. But when one of his emails to the very distracting Blue falls into the wrong hands, things get all kinds of complicated, because for Simon, falling for Blue is a big deal. It's a holy freaking huge awesome deal. If you want an LGBTQ read, that's very fun. If you know the movie, it's Love, Simon. This is the original title of the book. I think they've renamed the books to have the same title as the movie. This is the exact same story, just another name. Next up, we have A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki. So if you've seen my recent wrap-up video, then you'll know that I read this quite recently, and you can see my thoughts and feelings about the book over there. The only thing that's really making me want to keep this book is the cover. I absolutely adore this UK version and it's very, very pretty. I like the soft colors. I like the cover, but I think someone else will enjoy this a lot more than me. So let me read the synopsis for anyone interested. So in the wake of the 2011 tsunami, Ruth discovers a Hello Kitty lunchbox washed up on the shore of her beach home in British Columbia. Within it lies a diary that expresses the hopes, heartbreak, and dreams of a young girl desperate for someone to understand her. Each turn of the page pulls Ruth deeper into the mysteries of Now's life, and forever changes her in a way neither could foresee. Weaving across continents and decades, A Tale for the Time Being is an extraordinary novel about our shared humanity and the search for home. So if that is of interest to you, then check out this book. Next up, we have Unlondon by China Miéville? I'm not sure. China Miéville. And I got this at a second-hand bookshop quite a while ago, just because it seemed so whimsical and I really liked the cover. I was checking on Goodreads the other editions of this book, and the other covers look so weird, a lot more spooky. So I'm not really sure what the genre of this is. So let me read you the synopsis. Unlondon is at war. We're under attack, and it's been written for centuries that you will come and save us. Stumbling through a secret entrance, Zana and Deba find themselves in the strange wonderland of Unlondon. Here, all the lost and broken things of London end up, and some of its people too, including Brock and Brawl, boss of the Broken Umbrellas, and Hemi, the half-ghost boy. But the girls have arrived at a dangerous time. Unlondon is under siege by the sinister Smog. It's a city awaiting its hero. So I know this is a middle grade book, and I know it's a fantasy. I'm getting rid of it mostly just because I don't really see myself reading this anytime soon. I have a bunch of other books that I would rather read, so I'm just going to focus on that rather than this book that someone else will probably enjoy a lot more than me. Next up, we have The Princess Saves Herself in This One by Amanda Lovelace. So I got this a very long time ago. I was having a poetry phase, specifically that Instagram poetry phase, and I have read this. I'm just not invested in this type of poetry book so much anymore. So if you are interested, these are poems focused primarily around femininity, feminism, independence, I think, as well. And if you like that short, sweet, kind of tweet-like poetry, then this is for you. This one does not have illustrations, but I do know there were a few poems that really spoke to me when I first read this. Okay, so next up we have The Signs by Carolyn Faulkner. So this is technically a non-fiction. It's about astrology signs. At a time, I was really interested in finding out more about the signs. It has this beautiful gold foiling. It's more a rose gold foiling. If you can see it in the light. I can't see what's being filmed, but if you can see it in the light, it's very pretty. It's a hardback. I have had this for so many years and I never got round to reading it, so I just don't think I'm going to. So for anyone interested, we have Nobody's future is written in the stars, but we can use the stars to help write our future. For thousands of years, people have looked to the night sky for the answers to life's problems. Today's practice is a far cry from newspaper horoscopes and fortune-telling, but instead uses the ancient wisdom of astrology to help us better understand our choices and ourselves. It's not about perspective descriptions of personality and fate, but about putting the individual at the center of our decision-making. In The Signs, Carolyn Faulkner breaks down the jargon and offers a clear and simple explanation of how to use your birth chart, a map of the night sky at the time you were born, to take control of every aspect of your life. If anyone's interested, the link is down below. I do think this would still be an interesting read, just because I do have a little bit of interest, but is that really going to happen? When's that going to happen? Probably in a few years, so I'd rather get rid of it now. Next up, we have A Million Little Pieces by James Frey. I found this at a second-hand bookstore. I think I found this at the same time as Unlondon. I'm not completely sure. I think I found it at the same second-hand bookstore, but I'm not sure if I found them at the same time. The thing is, I got these books when I was kind of in a reading slump. As far as I'm aware, this is a memoir that focuses around the author's struggle with addiction and mental health. So I knew this was going to be a tough read, and that kind of made me hesitant to pick it up just because I wasn't in the right mindset to deal with that kind of dark subject matter. I was just not ready. So let me read you the synopsis. Aged just 23, James Frey has destroyed his body and his mind almost beyond repair. When he enters a rehabilitation center to try to reclaim his life, he has to fight to determine what future, if any, he has. His lack of self-pity, cynicism, and piety gives him an unflinching honesty, a fearless candor that is at once charming and appalling, searing and darkly funny. It does deal with quite heavy topics. I think that's just why I've never picked it up. I also loved this cover. I loved the little speckles all over, and if you can see, there are these little silver foiling speckles all over. That's just really quite cute. Yeah, I just don't think I'm going to be reading this anytime soon. Next up, we have another poetry book. So this is Flux by Orion Carlotto. So the author of this is a YouTuber and social media personality that I was watching videos of at the time, and she mentioned that she was releasing this poetry book, and I was so surprised to see it in stores that I was just like, let me pick it up. And it has the Lovers card of a tarot deck as the design of the cover, which I find to be quite interesting because I was also getting into tarot at the time, so I think that kind of convinced me to buy it. So as far as I'm aware, this book is about romantic relationships. I think it does delve into some queer themes as well. I'm not completely sure. I lent this to someone at one point to read, and I know they absolutely adored it, but I I don't really read poetry as much, so I just never had the inclination to pick it up. So it's just been sitting on my shelf, and I don't see the point in keeping it if I'm not going to be reading it. Next up, we have Hamlet by William Shakespeare. So I'm getting rid of this mostly just because I've gotten another edition. It's one that I think is for high schoolers that are analyzing this book. It goes into a lot of detail about the history of the story, what certain things in the story kind of imply. And these are things that I kind of need to read the story, especially with the language. The language is so difficult, and I was not expecting it. I started reading it and I was like, what do you mean? Shakespeare's easy. But I got to one section of dialogue where he was speaking kind of a lot, and I lost the plot completely. I had no idea what was happening. So I don't think I'm going to be reading this version. I'm going to be sticking with my cute version that has all the explanations that I need. So if you understand Shakespeare, then great for you. I don't. So, okay, next up is another poetry book. This is a hardcover copy of The Sun and Her Flowers by Rupi Kaur. And I think I read her first book as well, and that's what made me want this. And I absolutely loved this cover. It's so pretty. It's such a lovely addition. So this is more of that short poetry. There are illustrations throughout the book, and if you are a fan of her, fantastic. But as I said before, I kind of just outgrew this type of poetry. There are definitely a few poems in here that really hits hard. So I know she writes about the struggles of being a woman, and specifically also being a woman of color. So if any of that is interesting to you, fantastic. And last up, we have The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I remember when I was watching BookTube for the first time, a Clockwork reader was constantly talking about this book, and it was like her favorite book of all time. And then I saw it in a bookshop and I was like, let me grab it, let me see what's happening. I hadn't read it for a really long time, and it was kind of just sitting on my shelf, but I tried to read it I think a few months ago, and I read the first 100 pages. Like, I think I finished the first part, and the story is quite interesting, but it didn't really grab me the way that I wanted it to. I know that I should probably maybe give it another chance, see if I do like it when the story keeps on developing, but I don't care. I'm sorry, I don't. I'd rather just read other stuff, and maybe one day I'll give this book another chance. But today is not that day. It's leaving. It's going. Bye. But for anyone who is interested, let me read you the synopsis. The circus arrives without warning. Full of breathtaking amazement and open only at night, Le Cirque des Rêves seems to cast a spell over all who wander its circular paths. But behind the glittering acrobats, fortune tellers and contortionists, a fierce competition is underway. Celia and Marco are two young magicians who have been trained since childhood for a deadly duel. With the lives of everyone at the Circus of Dreams at stake, they must test the very limits of the imagination and of their love. Dun dun. Bye boy. Everyone, say goodbye to all of these books, because you will never see them again. No, I'm just joking. Unless you decide to buy them, or I ever decide to read any of these again one day in a few years. And you stick around for that long? You want to stick around for that long? Hit subscribe. Okay, so that is all. These are the books I am getting rid of. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a blast going through all the books I wanted to get rid of. I showed my book collection in my booktuber newbie tag, and these are 10 books I'm getting rid of already. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and comment about your policy of unhauling. How often do you get rid of your books? And anyways, bye! Rarig. Doe die ander. Jij. Joje. Wil je zussen? Yes, nou, maybe so. Het is amper klaar.